Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is episode 2 of Ask a Cyber Pro, where we detail the journey of diversity candidates in cybersecurity. Today's episode, we are detailing Rahmel Hunter, who was a former colleague of mine at NBCUniversal. He has an interesting path into cybersecurity. He was just working at Walgreens only 4 years ago. Rahmel went through the Empower program, which is a nonprofit organization that provides free IT training to underserved young adults, veterans, and veteran spouses. Thanks, Rahmel. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on. I think your story will, provide a lot of value to folks who are trying to break in. You have an interesting career path, and I wanted to discuss that today. So, yeah, can you just tell us a little bit about you and your career journey to this point so far?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, 4 years ago, I was still working in Walgreens. I had dropped out of college to get some money because college wasn't really working out for me. So I went to Walgreens. That obviously didn't work out for me. Wasn't paying enough. Didn't really put my skills to where I wanted them to be. And so I went searching. I went from door to door sales to charity work to social work. And eventually I came to the conclusion that I needed an actual career and not just a job. And that's where Empower came in. Empower is a nonprofit. They work with a bunch of other nonprofits in their communities. They also work with veterans and veteran spouses. They're in all 50 states, and they help the underprivileged get jobs in IT fields. They work with a bunch of Fortune 500 companies to try to place people into internships.
That's
So
Empower, or just a Google search.
yeah, you can find Empower just in Google search. You'll look at your local place. I'm in New York, so I know we have two locations, one in Brooklyn and one in Manhattan. So I ended up going to Manhattan there in Harlem. I went there for two technical trainings. The first was tech fundamentals, where I learned what a computer was. I always liked computers as a kid, but I didn't realize how much I didn't know about computers until I took tech fundamentals. And from there, I decided to go into their cybersecurity course. I got interested in cybersecurity when I was studying TCP/IP, and I saw that data was going across the internet in plain text. And from there, I kind of got into IPsec, VPNs, and other cybersecurity related terms. And it kind of got me interested in, hey, let me see how to secure my data. Let me see how to secure other people's data. And the cybersecurity course was 6 months long. And then it led into my internship at NBC Universal. When I got into NBC, I did well enough that instead of extending my internship, they just hired me straight out. And it's been a great experience. So currently, I'm a SOC analyst. I've been a SOC analyst for 2 years officially as an employee, and it was about 7 months as a contractor.
So let's back up a little bit. What do you do in a SOC?
Well, and the SOC is a Security Operations Center. What we do is we're basically the center of CDO. Uh, I'm specifically in the Response Operations Center. What we do is we take in alerts and requests and events and logs, and we basically see if there's a compromise or there isn't a compromise. So if someone sends us an email, we'll check to see if it's phishing, if it's malware, or someone will send us an email about an account or a server or something they think is breached. And we'll go in there, we'll collect IOCs, indicators of compromise, we'll collect evidence, we'll look through logs, we'll see if this is an actual event or if this is just a false positive, like some red flags went up, but there's nothing too serious, right? We're kind of the first response to this. And from there, we usually hand stuff to our incident handlers if it actually becomes an actual incident from an event.
Gotcha, gotcha. Um, so how'd you first find your internship at NBC Universal? And I preach this all the time. It's a great way to, to make to leverage opportunity, and you did that. How'd you find the opportunity at NBC?
So one of the people who worked at NBC, Jonathan Sinclair, was an alumni from Empower, and he came in to our class. He gave a little speech. Like it really inspired me about the NBC culture. Originally, I wanted an internship at it wasn't KPMG, it was Bloomberg. And I didn't get a chance because the day that they went to Bloomberg, I happened to be sick. So NBC happened to be the next best thing. And I was glad that they hired me because I was super nervous on that interview. Like I could have swore I wouldn't have stuttered. But NBC was just a great opportunity. I knew somebody that was there because they came to my class and was a big name, and like it was just a media corporation. I like NBC, and when I went in there with the conviction that I wouldn't get this, and I stuttered the whole way through because I was just too nervous.
So you don't have a college degree, but you have certifications. Tell me your thoughts on certs versus degrees, and how that's helped you or hurt you so far in your career.
All right, so let's start with certification. So currently, I have my A plus, I have my Linux plus, I have the CYSA plus, and I have the Cloud Practitioner. So my whole way of learning has been through certs. Um, so going through certifications, I've gained a bunch of knowledge. The A plus basically lays your foundation for everything you need to know. The CYA plus was great for incident response. The Linux plus gave me a great understanding of how to use command lines, and the Cloud Practitioner allowed me to understand basically Amazon from just a network perspective as a user. Learning through certs is probably one of the greater ways to do it because you have to answer questions right after, and you have to do actual simulations to show that you know your understanding. It's an excellent way to learn versus college. I've taken some college courses on classes, and they are very light, is what I like to say, versus a certification, which once you have mastery, and then when they ask you questions, they don't actually complete questions, right? They simulate the type of questions you're going to get in the field, which is basically a half a question, and you got to figure out what the actual problem is. So I really do enjoy certs. If you go to the right places, certs will give you extra money on your salary because you can show that, hey, I know what I'm doing when it comes to this in this role specifically because I get this cert that's sponsored and well known. As for college degree, I know for a fact that I got paid less than other people because I didn't have a college degree. So I'd recommend if you are in the field and you feel that you want that extra, I don't know, let's say 7,000 to 15,000, depending on what type of degree it is, you can go for that degree. But that is 4 years of your life or 8 years of your life, depending on what degree you want to get. Personally, I'm thinking about going back to college. I can't really say too much for other people, but it's debatable for me. I prefer the certs because this is how I got in, and this is how I prefer to learn, whether in the classroom environment.
Do you have more certs that you're pursuing, or?
Yes, I do. Right now, I'm trying to get the AWS solutions architect. I want to get my CCNA, and I want to get my CISSP, and maybe at some point CEH. I'm not sure. Um, these certs are kind of related towards what I want to do. Like, so the CISSP is kind of like a management cert for cybersecurity. It kind of has a broad field of knowing everything that's in it. The cloud, the solutions architect is more AWS. It's more money wise on the AWS. Is more how to set stuff up for customers. More client facing for AWS.
So you have a lot of certs under your belt and a lot of certs in mind. What is your recommendation for people to do to get through this material? It could be hard to be disciplined and to study every day and to get through a lot of dry material at times. What do you recommend people do?
I recommend that you find something that you like, right? So IT is going to be put into like two fields of study, right? The stuff that you want to learn and stuff that you need to learn. Stuff that you need to learn that's really dry and boring, you want to put that into chunks, like 30-minute chunks. So you do 30 minutes of the dry stuff, and you do 30 minutes of something that interests you, and then 30 minutes of the dry stuff, and then another 30 minutes of something that interests you, right? I tell people you should be studying for at least 2 hours a day, 3 hours if you're absolutely serious. Sometimes it gets really hard, right? Like you're studying something that you don't really want to get into. Like personally, I hate coding. It makes me want to stab a pencil through my eye. The idea of just reading that material and going through, and I hate it so much. But I really like networking, and AWS has been my go-to. I love to read up on it. I love going through their logs. I love going through their white pages. Absolutely amazing. So I'll do like 30 minutes of studying a coding language, and then I'll go into AWS for like 45 minutes, get that fire, that drive, that excitement about being in the field back, and then I'll go back to the dry stuff, right? And then I'll keep notes, and I'll make sure that the stuff that is extra dry, I know to hurt so that I don't have to study it ever again. um, it gets tough, but like if you go through it, if you make a routine, if you make sure you keep that drive, you will get through it.
How do you stay up to date on current events and what's happening out there?
There are a bunch of websites, news sites. Personally, I have a group of people that I went to class with that do updates, and I have other friends and other people in the industry. There are news articles. There are a bunch of websites. There, if you want to stay up to date in this field, there's no shortage of people who are talking about cybersecurity, whether it's bleeping computers or an actual official log from Cisco or some security website or a YouTube channel talking about the security events that's going on. You can find information anywhere, or you can set up alerts on Google. You can set up alerts on Google whenever something cybersecurity related or a keyword in an article pops up, then Google will send you a notification. And that's how you can get out information on different viruses, different 0 days. There's a bunch of things you can do.
I really love the idea of you and your Empower colleagues keeping in touch and sending each other current events. I think that's a great idea, and more people should do that. Kind of hold each other accountable for learning and keeping up to date.
Yes.
Uh,
Having a network of people is very important. It's like the foundation. Like cybersecurity is one of those fields that you should try to reach out to people in different fields to try to get different perspectives on different things. It really helps you out.
I strongly agree. Um, have you ever heard of imposter syndrome? And if so, have you dealt with that in your career and how do you manage that?
Yes, I have dealt with imposter syndrome. So there's been plenty of times where I felt like an imposter. The first time I got into NBC, I was like, what am I doing here? Right? I'm some big black guy from the hood. I don't have a college degree. Most of the people around me do not look like me, do not come from the same background. Like I have no idea how I got picked out, right? There are people who go to Ivy League schools and can't get a job at NBC. And yet here I am sitting in the seat with my NBC badge. And I felt so out of place, right? I'm like, this is one of those things that you can't fathom. Like I felt like one day someone was gonna walk in the room and be like, "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. Get out." And it caused me to study harder than I've ever had before, right? So when I first got into NBC, even though I went through the 6 months training program, like all of my stuff was theoretical. It wasn't actual real world experience. So while I was at the job, I had to, bust down and start actually making sure I understood what I was doing and talking to my coworkers, asking questions, reaching out to the boss. making sure that I knew what I was doing, that I could say, I belong here. Even though I don't feel like I belong here and my skills are unquestioned, right? That's how you fight against imposter syndrome. You know that your skill set is where it needs to be where you're at, right? And even if you don't feel like you belong there, you can hang out with the other people who do belong there.
Gotcha. Gotcha. You have any advice for folks trying to break into cybersecurity? Maybe they're, in another field, they're trying to make a career change, or they're, younger or in the middle of a degree program. What would you, tell those folks to break in?
Yes, I do have some advice. So if you're already in IT, one of the greatest things you can do is you can reach out to another team and you can try to get work from them and advice from them and try to shadow them for a while. I've seen plenty of people break into cybersecurity from regular help desk, from lead help desk, and get into IT by just talking to the cybersecurity people and gaining an interest in there. From there, their career took off. Now, if you don't have a career in IT and you're trying to break into the field, I always recommend getting a certification, and then because you can get a certification in 3 months if you really want to, if you study really hard, you can then go and try to get a small internship, right? I have a certification for these specific skills. Let me get an internship doing this in cybersecurity, or let me get into a SOC role with these specific skills. And you can keep doing that until you actually break into the field, doing little contractor work, doing internships until you actually get a real job because you build up enough experience. Or if you're in college, your college should know some companies that do cybersecurity, and you should be able to network with some of the HR people or some of the hiring managers to land yourself an internship like that. So those are some of the ways.
Great. Last question for me is, what is next for Rahmel? What do you have planned for, future roles, and where do you want to go?
So currently I'm heading towards cloud security. I've always had a big interest towards networking and network security in general. And I feel like AWS is the next big thing. I've seen the speed in which you can spin up an entire network in like 5 minutes versus you going through the physical route and it taking you 24 hours with a team of 5 people, right? So I kind of want to be in the AWS space, the Azure space, the Google Cloud space. And the way I'm doing that is I'm doing AWS certs and I'm kind of looking through logs, right? So since a lot of this is online, a lot of the things you're going to look at is now logs. So I'm looking to be a Splunk engineer and an AWS solutions architect at the same time, and kind of get into the security side of AWS.
Great. Thank you very much for your time today. I think your story will be very helpful to folks, and yeah, I really appreciate you coming on today.
All right. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Have a nice day.
Great. Thanks.
Mhm.